So just like Monday when we first started substitution today, the first two steps are going to be done for us, and we're starting at step 3. So tomorrow we're going to add in steps 1 and 2. I'll talk about them briefly right now, but they'll make more sense tomorrow. Okay? But there's a really important learning that's going to happen today that I really got to get before we move on to tomorrow. Elimination is a great process, but it's a little bit trickier than substitution in some ways, at first at least. Okay, so we're going to start off. Well, first thing I'm going to notice, I've got my 2 equations, right? Oops. Oh boy. 1 and 2. And I'm just going to point out the first 2 steps, but put both equations in the right order. X's, Y's equals numbers. So if we take a look, X, Y equals number. X, Y equals number. It's already done. Okay, so that part's already done for us. If it wasn't done, we'd have to do it. But today, we don't have to worry about it. And then the step 2, so we're going to talk about this for a minute. Step 2 is multiply. Again, we don't have to do it, so don't worry too much about it. But multiply so that the coefficients of one of the variables is the same. So you need to look really closely. If there's one thing that you get from today, it's what we're going to talk about for the next 5 minutes. So if right now, if you're doing something else, you're going to have no idea what's going on. Like if you're on your phone or something, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. What's a coefficient? Somebody tell me that. What's a coefficient? Very nice. It's the number before a variable. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, find a better example. This question has a bunch of obvious coefficients. What's the coefficient of x in the first one? It's 3. What's the coefficient of y in the first one? 2, right? And then coefficient 5, coefficient -2. So what you're looking for elimination is that either the coefficients of x or the coefficients of y are the same. Does that make sense? Sign doesn't matter, just a number. So somebody tell me, is that the case in this example? It's not? So you're right, the x's aren't the same. What about the y's? Mike? Yeah, they are. 2 and 2. -2, but that's okay. Sign doesn't matter. So the y's are the same. So this is already set up. Again, step 2 is done for us today. But that's what you're looking for. And you still need to recognize that today. Like, you got to think about that. You got to look at the coefficients. 3 and 5, not the same. 2 and 2, yes. So we're good. Okay? What if I go to this example? What are the coefficients here? It's a little tricky. Yeah, see, coefficient is always a number. So it doesn't become a variable, but when there isn't a number, it's 1. So the coefficients of x are both 1, the same, we're good. Or the coefficients of y are both 1, 1, and -1, so we're good. Does that make sense? So again, this one's set up properly. It's in the right order. X, y equals number, x, y equals number. And our first example, same thing. 1 and 1, or 1 and -1. So it's already kind of set up for us. So we skip step 2. But that, you still have to, even today, you do have to think about the coefficients and look at them. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Step number 3, where we start today, is we are going to either add or subtract. You're going to have to pick. It's going to be one or the other. You have to pick the right one to eliminate one of the variables. If there's one thing you learn today, this has to be it. Okay? So make sure that you think about what we're about to do and that it clicks, that you understand what you're doing, you understand why, and that you can do this step. The rest of it's basically the same as what we've already done. Okay? But it's this step that's really key, and it's quite strange in some ways. So here's what we're going to do. If I add x plus x, I'm going to add these 2 equations. It's weird, but I'm going to add these 2 equations. If I add x plus x, what do I get? 2x. Didn't eliminate. So that was wrong. Adding was wrong in that case. If I subtract x minus x, 1x minus 1x, what do I get? What's anything minus itself? What do you think? No. Yeah, nothing. 0. What's 1 minus 1? It's 2 minus 2. 3 minus 3. That's what you're doing. 1x minus 1x is 0. That's what elimination is. We've eliminated the x because it's 0. 0x. Does that make sense? Okay, so this question is very easy. It's a little bit like kind of a friendly question. So if we were eliminating x's, we would subtract. That's what we would pick, because adding didn't work. Now, forget about the x's now. Imagine we were trying to eliminate the y's. If I added, what would happen? What's y plus negative y? This is tricky, but Ryan, what do you think? It's 0. So if I added, remember the x's didn't eliminate, but the y's do. They have the same coefficient, but opposite signs. These have the same coefficient and the same sign. Same sign, subtract, will eliminate. Opposite signs, adding, will eliminate. If I subtract these, this is tricky again. What's 1y minus negative 1y? It's 1 plus 1, which is 2. So subtracting will not eliminate the y's, but adding will. And adding will not eliminate the x's, but subtracting will. So most questions, it's not like, so in this case, you can add or subtract. But most of the time, that won't work out that way. Like, you're going to have to look at it and decide which one do I eliminate and how do I do it. Okay, so that's what you really need to get out of today. So for the first two examples, we can do either. They're very friendly. Somebody tell me, do you want to add or subtract? It won't matter. Subtract. Okay, so we're going to do 1 minus 2. Again, you absolutely have to say what you're doing on the side. Otherwise, it's totally unclear what you're doing. So 1 minus 2. X minus x. 0. You don't have to write this, but we're going to start. 0 or 0x, right? But 0, so it's gone. This is y minus negative y. 1 minus negative 1, which is 1 plus 1, which is 2. So this is actually positive 2y. That's really kind of a tricky thing. The reason is usually we write it like this, and you can see that it's like 2 negatives makes positive. So how do you do it? Like, part of what you're going to practice today is getting that step right. It can be very tricky. And then negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. What do you think about that? Negative 6 minus 4. Use your calculator for the integer part, but recognize that if you chose subtraction, that you got to be really careful because you're subtracting, and it's just not entirely clear that that's what you're doing from the way that we write these examples. Okay, so keep that in mind. We'll practice it. Now, if you look at this, it's exactly, from here on, the rest of the process is exactly like substitution. So what do? I divide by 2, and I get y equals negative 5. Call that equation 3. 3 into, which one do you want to go into? Sadie, pick one or 2. Right? It doesn't matter in this case. Sometimes there's an easier one, but in this case there certainly isn't. So this is x plus, we're subbing for y, equals negative 6. So y is negative 5, right? That goes in there. And I'm going to add 5 to both sides, plus 5, and x is negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. Therefore, the point of intersection is negative 1, negative 5. What do you think? We're going to do it a couple more times, but you okay with that? Remember what we're doing. We made a big deal about this a couple days ago, but a lot of people probably don't think of it. Here's one of the lines. See, I graphed these 2 lines. Those are the 2 lines we just did. There's one. There's the other. What did we find? The point of intersection. That's where they cross. Negative 1, negative 5. Remember, it's a point. Always remember what it is we're doing, right? And we write it as a point. Okay, let's try another one. When we're done. Yeah. So equation 1 and equation 2. Last time we subtracted, this time we're going to add. Notice, like I said, these ones are very friendly. They're not always this easy, just because we're just started. So for this one, if I added, I'm going to get 2x again, but the y's will eliminate. If I subtract, the x's will eliminate, and I'll get like 2y, right? So it's very similar to the other, the first example. This one we subtracted. So this one we're going to add. 1 plus 2. X plus x is 2x. Y plus negative y. They're the same, but they're opposite. Is 0. Does that make sense? You gotta get that part. This is what I'm saying. This is the part you need to understand how that works. Because the problem is, and then I'm going to do negative 1 plus 3 gives me 2. If you do the elimination step and you don't eliminate, so you still have x and y, you've done something wrong, and this won't work at all. So you got to get this step. This is the essence of the whole process. That is the most important part of this whole process, right there. That one of the two variables gets eliminated. Okay, and then the rest is the same. So right here I have 2x equals 2, divide by 2, x equals 1. Call that equation 3, and we'd keep going. We're going to skip this part because I think we're good at it, but we would find y, right? Found x, now I need to find y. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, here's what I want you to do. So this one, you have to pick the right operation. You're either adding or you're subtracting. There's only one thing you can eliminate. So I want you to try it yourself, and I want you to pick. You have to decide, am I going to add or am I going to subtract, and which variable is going to eliminate. And if you can try to eliminate, you can try to do that step. But at the very least, I want you to write, is it 1 plus 2 or 1 minus 2 over on the side? So go ahead and try that. I'll give you just a quick. So this is where you need, like, at some point before you leave the room today, you've got to figure out how to do this step. You're never going to get this stuff if you don't figure out, like, if you're sitting there thinking, like, I don't know which one it is. That's fine. But before you leave, you need to not be in that state anymore. You need to, at some point, figure out, how do I tell if I add or subtract? Okay, so somebody tell me, what do you think you do? Teo? Why did you pick add? Okay, good. So in this case, they've got the same sign. You can't eliminate the x's, no matter what you do. If you add them, you get 8. If you subtract them, you get 2 or negative 2, depending on how you subtract. Right? You can't eliminate the x's. The y's are the ones that have the same coefficient. So I can eliminate y. Do I eliminate by adding or subtracting? They have opposite signs, so adding. Does that make sense? So 3x plus 5x is 8x. 2y plus negative 2y is 0. And 19 plus 5 is 24. Divide both sides by 8. X is 3. We would call that equation 3 and move on, but again, I think we're okay with that part. Any questions? One more?
I don't understand what you do after this, because I wasn't here.
Okay, we'll worry about that. Okay, one more. Try this one. we eliminating x or are we eliminating y? And how do you do it? Adding or subtracting? Hey, Lexi, what do you think? Not sure? So how would you figure it out if you're in that boat? Mike, what do you think? So why would you subtract? They have the same coefficient, same sign. So 3 minus 3 is 0. Again, compare this to C. If you're still trying to figure this out, it's fine. We are just learning this. But look at example C. The y's have the same number, but opposite signs. If I add them, I'll get 0. This one, same number and same sign. So I have to subtract to get 0. See how it's either or? You got to pick the right one. And you got to know if you're eliminating the x's or the y's. So if I subtract in this case, 1 minus 2, you could also do 2 minus 1. Like, it doesn't matter if you're really getting this stuff and you decide you think it's easier doing it the other way, then do it, right? 2 minus negative 4. Guys, listen, because you got to be able to do this part too. 2 minus negative 4 is 6x, because it's 2 plus 4. 2 minus negative 4 is 2 plus 4. 3 minus 3, 0. Again, 12 minus negative 6 is 12 plus 6, so it's 18. So the elimination, like, you have to understand why. You got to be able to do that. You got to be able to plan it out. But then you also have to be able to actually, especially when you're subtracting, do the subtraction part. Okay? And then this is divide by 6, and you get x equals 3. That's equation 3. Go on and find y, and then you're done. Tomorrow. We're going to add that in tomorrow. And if you really struggle with this part, the 2 minus negative 4, it gives you 6. If you keep getting that integer math wrong, you still have to, like, really practice and try to get better at this, because tomorrow it'll be kind of hard, but there is a way to avoid some of that logic. So if you struggle with that today, then you got to get something about tomorrow. We'll talk about it then. But that makes sense? Yeah.
So to find y, you get the 2x on the other side, and then
to find y, you take
3.
no, you take 3. You'd sub it into one of the first two equations. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then you multiply and move around nicely. Yeah. Yep. There definitely would be other ways you could do it, but it should still always work out to the same answer. So you must just, I'll come and take a look, and then you must just have a negative out of place. Okay, here's the work. If you take a look carefully, the first one's very easy. I would say start with A, then try C, then try E. And then you can go back and try some of the other ones if you need more practice. And question 2 is solve and check. So I would try at least one of the checks today as well.